Sports and politics have always mixed, and we don't like to talk about it, but it gets an exclamation point on it during Olympic time. All that and more on today's 1420 Sports Bar podcast. 4 beer with sports talk and a whole lot more. Let's get into it.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
1420 Sports Bar Podcast. 4 beer with sports talk and a whole lot more. Join host Brent Radlinsky as he bellies up to the bar and gets the conversation going that'll make you think you're sitting in your local watering room. It's sports, beer, and shenanigans. So sit back, grab a few beers, and let's get into it. The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 beer sports talk and a whole lot more, brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420SEAT over there at SeatGeek and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com for all their great articles and other podcasts as well. Lots of good Super Bowl content coming out there right now. Big game is tomorrow. I'm allowed to say Super Bowl? Yeah. If I get canceled, whatever. Probably going to talk about something a little more elaborate today, get me canceled anyways than saying Super Bowl. But that big game is tomorrow. You hunker down here in the tavern to watch that one. Seahawks and overwhelming favorite, I think, to take on the Patriots. And I don't care. I really don't care. And I should not say that, but I'm not invested in that game at all. And it's just I barely watch football this NFL season, and a lot of other stuff going on, and just hockey, baseball, blah blah blah, and everything else that goes on in my life. But anyways, the Winter Olympic Games got going in Italy on Thursday. Opening ceremonies were on Friday, and it got resounding. There's a few key moments in there that we'll get to in half a second. But earlier this week, or when it was last Friday, actually, I watched that new documentary on Netflix about the 1980 men's Olympic team, Lake Placid, U.S. They beat the Russians, then the Finns in the final. Probably one of the best sports documentaries I've witnessed in my life, and that's not just recency bias. It was done so well with a lot of footage that I'd never seen before, and I remember watching that game when I was a kid and cheering on the U.S. against the big bad Russians, and everybody was, it was just a remarkable moment. And then you hear the stories later on in life. Obviously, I was only 5 years old when that game occurred, but you hear all the stories about the Russians and the Cold War and just the great story about that group of college kids that beat the Russians and found their way throughout the tournament, and Herb Brooks, Mike Eruzione, and Jim Craig and the like. It was a very well done documentary. If you're any kind of a sports fan or a hockey fan, you should probably take that one in and watch it. And it got and then you get thinking about the Olympics that are going on now and the political discourse, and people are saying that sports and politics shouldn't mix. And I was one of them for sure when I first started this fledgling podcast back in 2020 when sports was canceled because of COVID, and my father had just passed away. And I kind of, when sports when it got put back on, I think it was baseball that first got put on. The Black Lives Matter movement happened. The George Floyd murder happened, and let's not sugarcoat this. The guy was murdered, but I was the first to say, man, I really wish they would just take a day off, because I was going through a rough time in my life. The world was going through a rough time, not just me. I'm not playing a fiddle here, but I said, I wish they could just take a day off and let me enjoy a game, and not have all this political discourse behind me and all this other stuff behind in front of the games. I just want to just watch a game, and because so much was taken away from us that spring and into the summer. But then you get thinking a little bit, well, this is a platform that these guys have. And there's a reason why they only have certain times that they can say anything or do anything and get out in front of it. And try to make some sense of the situation and what's going on. And then you start thinking about other ways that sports and politics have been mixing. And you go back to, I think it was the 68 Olympics, when the two gentlemen got on the podium and put their fists up. They were wearing black gloves. I can't remember their names, but it doesn't matter right now. It does matter what their names are. I should have done a little more research on this topic. But you remember that situation? Actually, I would hear somewhere. You remember that situation where there was political discourse, and there was human rights violations with the in the United States, and there were some men that were lynched, and on and on it went, and these guys decided that this was going to be their one time. It was probably their one only time in their life that they were going to be able to make a political statement that people would care about. Tommy Smith won gold, and John Carlos raised their fist during the U.S. anthem after Smith won the gold medal in '68. And these guys had a opportunity to say that, hey, things aren't right now. Things aren't right against Black people. Things aren't right in the United States. And they had a chance to say something, and people kind of listened. Were they ostracized? Yes. Were they told to be quiet? Yeah. But they had an opportunity to say something, and they took advantage of it. And I think that's important. I think it's important that people still have a voice, whether you believe they're right or they're wrong or indifferent about things. People, they take the platform and they can say things. And if people want to listen, great. If they don't want to listen, that's fine too. But I also think that people have the right to say something. I think that people have a right to whether you're an athlete or a rock star or a movie star or just some schmo on the street, just like I am right now. This conversation's been had many a times, at the local watering hole that I go to, about things that aren't right in your own head. Whether me and you agree or disagree on the subject, that's a whole other story we'll get to in a second. But people have these conversations all the time, and for one side to be saying stay in your lane and only talk about things that you know about, and people want to say, well, they're athletes, what do they know? Well, why are you upset if they're saying something? You don't have to listen. If you're that far to one side or the other, you aren't going to listen anyway. So what's the big deal if somebody wants to say something? And isn't that what the world we went to world wars for? Isn't that for and I'm Canadian, obviously, and isn't that what the U.S. Constitution's for? Your amendment rights, and on it goes. And it's here in Canada too right now, where there's people trying, especially here in Alberta, there's people trying to separate and get Alberta to separate and be part of their own country, which is a perfect opportunity for the Americans to move in and to take over Alberta. And I'm against that. And it's nothing to do with anything. I'm just against that because I'm a proud Canadian. But the political discourse has always been there with sports, and with the Olympics, it gets an exclamation point on it. It gets Carmex put on chapped lips, so you notice it more. That's what it is. You had an American skier last night after the JD Vance got booed, and rightfully so. Rightfully so, in my opinion. JD Vance to me is a lying asshole. There, it took me 7 minutes and 42 seconds into this thing to say anything. But the best way to not get booed in a foreign country is to don't do stuff that's going to make you get booed. Pretty simple. And no, it wasn't that the NBC put it in there. It wasn't that it was on CBS. It was on CBC up here, on Sportsnet up here. So it wasn't that the fake news media put it in there. No, the Vice President of the United States got booed, and rightfully so. The guy's a lying asshole. I said it. I've said it. There it is. But the American skier who came out and said, you know what, just because he's wearing the flag on his uniform or on his clothes that he's wearing that day doesn't mean that he fully supports what the government's doing right now or what the country's doing right now. He may love other parts of it, but nobody likes everything everybody does. So this guy has a right to say that. He can flat out say, you know what, I don't particularly agree with what's going on right now. But as soon as he says that, people are telling him to get out of the country. Why? Because he made his opinion known? People are saying that all over the place right now. It's just like you saying that you agree with everything that the country's doing right now. Doesn't make you right or wrong. If you agree with it, you agree with it. I don't agree with the way the U.S. is treating the ICE thing and the takeover of Venezuela and threatening Greenland and threatening Canada. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with what happened in Minnesota at all. Did the guy kick in a taillight a few days before that, a week before? Yeah. Doesn't mean you should get shot 10 times in the back. You know, and then the woman who got shot 3 times in the head, because she was moved away from a guy, from an ICE agent. She got shot 3 times, and she didn't hit the guy. If she hit him, the guy would have been on the ground. Doesn't mean she gets shot. Is there a discourse for Americans around the world right now? Yeah. Let's not sugarcoat this. I have American friends. Jim, the fan of the van, we banter back and forth during our podcast, just like I'm going to do now. He said it last week. He's got a daughter in the city. He's scared to death for her life because of ICE agents. Is that right? No. And the last guy I expected to get political on his podcast was Jim, but he did, because he knows it's wrong. And this isn't about woke, unwoke. This is about right and wrong. This isn't about wearing a red hat or a blue hat or a red tie and a blue tie, left, right, nothing. This is about right and wrong. And if people are speaking out about it, whether they're athletes or not, it doesn't matter. It's because you're listening. It's because it's on. You can turn it off, but it's going to be the same guy down at the grocery store. It's going to be the same conversation down at your job site in the lunchrooms, or it's going to be when you're just talking with your buddies having a beer. It's going to be brought up. It's going to be talked about. Can you disagree? Yeah. But just because one person's saying something that you don't like shouldn't mean that they should be canceled. It's the first, like the one that I remember in recent memories, I can't remember how many years ago, but it was a lot of years ago now, when Colin Kaepernick took the knee and people were outraged. And I was one of them. I said, this doesn't seem right. Guy shouldn't be disrespectful the national anthem. But then when you do a deep dive into what was happening, he was taking a knee against police brutality. He was taking a knee for human rights, just the same way those two guys did in 1968. He was doing the exact same thing. The exact same thing, just in a different form. Sports and politics has always been a thing because they have a platform. They have a platform to say things. They're just doing it and people are watching. This fake outrage right now about Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl halftime show and the Kid Rock and the other guys are doing a show and whatever, man. If you don't like it, don't watch it. You don't have to go out and say things. And hey, tell you, Puerto Rico's part of the United States. Just because he doesn't speak English during his performances, who cares? I read a funny tweet earlier on today that people are outraged that they won't be able to understand Bad Bunny during the halftime show. Well, the Pearl Jam's been around for a long time, and I don't understand what Eddie Vedder's been singing for all those years either. So what the hell's the difference? Nobody knows the lyrics to Smells Like Teen Spirit. He didn't cancel them because he didn't understand it. It's because he was white. And that's what it is. Bad Bunny, like, he's one of the most popular artists in the world. In the world. But one side doesn't like him, so everybody else just has to follow along. Freedom of speech is supposed to be a part of this whole thing. Freedom of speech is being allowed to say what you feel. It doesn't give you a right to lie. And that's where I have a problem with freedom of speech. You can't just go out and say stuff whenever you want or whatever you want with no repercussions. And that's what's happening right now. That's what's happening a lot right now in the United States and in Canada. Both sides of the border, and I'm sure it's all over the world that it's happening. That people, like, you can't just say whatever you want whenever you want to say it, because eventually it'll come back to bite and it'll burn you. Because there is truths. Whether you believe them or not, there are truths. And it's so hard to understand why both sides of the equation can't understand one or the other and can't have a logical conversation. They can't have a conversation about how they feel. And then if you have an athlete saying something and then they get canceled by their own country because they have feelings toward what's going on. So their own country is telling them to take off their, to not compete. Their own countries tell them not to compete because you don't agree with what I believe. You're saying things that go against what I believe. Does that make any sense? Like, you can say whatever you want, but if an athlete that doesn't agree with you, they can't speak up against it because they have an actual platform where they can say it. They were asked questions, they were asked things, and they just answered it on the podium. The same way you do when you're at your local watering hole doing the same thing. Pub, tavern, bar, nightclub, restaurant, cafe. The conversations are happening all over the world. So why can't an athlete, when asked a question, just give the answer that they don't agree with some things? I don't agree with some things either. So I'm talking about it right now. Thank you for listening to those who are still listening. But I don't understand. I don't understand why there's this discourse for people who speak out against the other side, who go, "Hey, something's not right here. Something's fishy here." You know, everybody who can remember about the Olympics back in '84 when the Russians were boycotted, and then or '88, I can't remember, but the boycotts of '84 when the U.S. didn't go over there and Russia didn't go over here in '84, and the politics have been around the Olympics forever. Boycotts, and like right now, people forget that it's been so long since the Russians have been allowed to compete in the Olympics. So the politics have been around for a long time. And you think about all the crap that's going on, like, you know, because I'm Ukrainian, of Ukrainian descent. My grandparents came over from Ukraine. And so it really hits home with what Russia's the invasion of the Ukraine. And they've been banned. They've been banned from Olympic competition and international sports, no matter what it may be, whether it was the Four Nations face-off or whether it's Olympics, whether it's just international, whatever it might be. And we've decided, and rightfully so, to an extent, we've decided that these athletes from Russia shouldn't be allowed to compete in these events. Now, whether you believe that's right or wrong, that's your opinion. It's just too bad that there's a group of kids, a group of athletes that maybe don't have any, they don't lean towards what Putin's doing, but they're just thrown into that bowl. And they say, you know what, you're part of that, whether you agree or disagree or whatever it is, you can't compete. You're not allowed. And people applaud that. People are like, hey, that's great. And I agree with it too, because it's just the way it is. But you can't say that every Russian athlete feels the same way. You don't know. But they've been banned, even though that their beliefs might not be the same. Why is it that maybe the United States should be taking a hard look at what they've been doing with threatening countries? They went into Venezuela. There's a lot of crazy crap going on against their own people. So the same thing that's happening around the world with countries getting banned from competition, the United States isn't exactly angels in this. And it breaks my heart to say that, because the United States was always our brother. And you could say, yeah, big brother, little brother, whatever it is, but the United States was always like there. They were always a strong one there. And what they're doing now isn't strong, it's bullying. So why are they still allowed to be in the Olympics? I'm not going to get added at this. I know people are going to be upset, but just think about it for a second. And don't cancel me just because I'm just saying things. Comment on it, approach it. But what they're doing to their own people in their own country, it's bad. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that illegal immigration is right. I'm not for 1 second saying this. So for people who already quit listening, make sure you somebody else go back and tell you. I completely agree. If somebody is in the country illegally, that if somebody is a criminal, has done something illegal, and they're on a visa, whatever it might be, I don't know the ins and outs of it. Don't want to get too, but they should not be allowed in the country. I feel that way about Canada, U.S., Botswana, wherever. If you're somewhere you're not supposed to be and you do something illegally, you should be gone. But when your own people are getting thrown in these detention centers, and your own people are getting shot in the streets. And it's not because this is a white guy. Because I've been saying this for a long time. All these murders and all these things that are happening, and that's what it was murder. Let's not sugarcoat this at all. All this stuff that is happening has been happening for a long time. Been happening for a long time with crimes against American citizens. It happened, and that's what Kaepernick was kneeling for all those years ago. That's what those two men were doing all those years ago. So this hasn't changed. This isn't a new thing. But because it was two white people, people are actually up in arms against this. That's why it's getting more media attention, because it was two white people who got murdered on the streets of Minneapolis. This is something that's been going on for years in inner cities. Nobody pays attention to it. But when it's two white people, that's when people pay attention. And will it stop everything else? Yeah, hopefully. But it's just, it's crazy to think that for all these years that this has been going on for so long, and the racism that exists. and everything that's going on. It's and like the whether you believe it, like who knows who put that post up about Michelle and Barack Obama on the True Social thing? Who knows who put it up there? If it was Trump, it's disgusting. If it was anybody, it's disgusting. If you know, you always see, I said his name for the first time. I'm not a Trump apologist by any means. I think people have read through the lines. I can't stand the guy. I think he's an asshole. I think he's an idiot. And I think that he's an evil human being. But anybody who has to say repeatedly that I'm not a racist, you're probably racist. If you get accused of it over and over and over again, chances are, I've never been called a racist. You know, and another thing, if anybody is involved, like this once again, it don't matter, red hat, blue hat, red tie, blue tie, right wing, left wing, whatever you, gay, straight, whatever, brown skin, white skin, purple, whatever you may be. If you're anywhere involved in any of that Epstein stuff, and I don't care if you're this guy or that guy, this woman or that woman, if you're involved in that, you should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. This has nothing to do with political leanings. This is about kids. This is about sexual exploitation. This is about all that stuff. If you're involved in that, and you did it and you're found guilty, yes, you have to go through political discourse, but this should not be brushed under. And anybody who's protecting these guys, they should be prosecuted right along with them, because withholding the truth is the same as lying. If you're protecting these guys because of whatever reason, you're just as guilty. Left wing, right wing, doesn't matter. Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, whatever. This has nothing to do with one or the other. If you did that and you're prosecuted and you're found guilty, death by tire iron. We kill dogs. We kill dogs who harm children. People should feel the same way, because it's worse. A dog doesn't know better. So if you're anything part of this, you should be prosecuted and death. If half the stuff is true, it's bad. And this isn't just about Trump. This isn't about, it's about all of them. All of them. Get back to sports here. Anyways, get to talk about the Olympics. Like in sports, like Canada won a bronze medal this morning in speed skating, and you see and that's the great thing about the Olympics is you put the politics behind it, and the pride these guys have for their country, and that's and whether you believe in it and everything else, these guys have one shot, maybe two, at being a part of this. And you see a person train their entire lives, and even if they get a personal best, and they're pretty proud, they're very proud of themselves, and they're happy for their families, they're happy for themselves, they're happy for their country, their teammates, whatever it might be. And that's what makes the Olympics so great. We're going to all turn into experts on speed skating and luge and short track and the biathlon, where guys ski and then they shoot targets, and we're all going to be tuned into these sports. And curling, you're going to, people like, I know I've watched a lot of curling in my life, but people are going to tune into curling from other countries in the world and cheer for their team and cheer for their country. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with cheering for your country. I'm not being an anti-American here. I'm not. I'm just being for what's right and anti what's wrong. And I'm not saying Americans all do wrong things. I'm not saying that at all. So don't twist my words. But I've never wanted to beat the Americans as bad as I do right now in hockey. I've never felt more nervous going into a tournament than I do right now at 11:22 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on the 7th day of February. Four Nations face-off, it was something that I didn't care about. We talked about pretty much that right when it was on this time last year, until Trump started, threatening Canada with multiple things, not just the tariffs, but everything else, and being the 51st state and invading this great land of ours. And I've never wanted to win a hockey tournament so bad, and not so much for Canada to win, but for the USA to not win. And if they win in other events, right on. If they win curling, or if they win short track, or whatever it might be, I won't care a whole bunch. But I've never wanted this great country that I live in, Canada, to win a hockey tournament as much as I do this time around. My disdain for the Orange Menace is obviously not masked anymore. And the division that he's put between our countries, and the division that he's put just in your country, in the United States, it can't be understated. And hockey's the one thing that really brings our country together. And we're going to see if it does or not, if Canada does well this week, and especially men's hockey. The women's get going in about an hour and a half to watch their first game against Switzerland. But I've never wanted a team to win so badly in my life as I do this time around. It's very hard to watch, and it's very hard to observe things like this, that the division that one person has put on the entire world. And I can't imagine, and if Canada doesn't win a gold medal, and if the U.S. doesn't win a gold medal, then it's all in a wash. But I can't imagine how that buffoon is going to flap his gums on True Social or wherever it might be, or on TV, or wherever it might be, if the U.S. loses to Canada. And I can't stomach to hear it. If it was somebody else, if it was Obama being proud of the American hockey team, if it was Ronald Reagan, if it was Jimmy Carter, if it was Richard Nixon, if we go through the list of Bill Clinton or George Bush, it wouldn't bother me. I'd be like, it's shitty, but the better team won. Foreshadowing 2 weeks from now, if I have to listen to that orange idiot pop off about the U.S. beating Canada in hockey, it'll be way too soon. That's the disdain I have for him. It's not against all of my American friends and listeners. It's not against them. It's not. My disdain for that man and what he's done to our two countries, it's inexcusable. And that's the my political side of the sports world. Anyways, it's been, I've been thinking about doing something like this for a while now, but like I said, now that the Olympics are on, and the disdain, and Vance getting booed last night at the opening ceremonies, it all kind of came together. And for those of you who agree with me, right, you message me on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it might be, or send me an email at 1420sports@gmail.com. And if you disagree with me, that's fine too. Send me a message. But I just think that I'm allowed to say what I feel, just as you're allowed to say how you feel. I don't go out and cancel you. I just think if you support a racist, you got to take a long, hard look in the mirror. The Super Bowl's going tomorrow, and if you're a known racist and you're cheering for a team but don't recognize there's black people on the field, maybe there's something wrong with you. And I've said that before, that there's certain people, and they're white people, who show more racism than most. They shouldn't be allowed to cheer for football teams because they like it, because you're cheering for people that you hate, and that's not false. Being nice isn't hard. It actually takes less effort to be nice than it does to be an asshole. It takes a lot less effort to say something nice or not say anything at all. And it's hard to watch. And the Olympics supposed to be about sports, and it's going to get down to that. And I'll watch Canada play Switzerland today for women's ice hockey. I call it ice hockey because that's what it is on TV. And I'll cheer. I'll be happy. Canada should win by a bunch. You cheer this morning when the woman won the bronze medal. You're happy for her and the country, and you see the flags. But it's the other stuff that's ugly. And sports only shows it. We're not sports doesn't separate it. Sports doesn't, it's I don't know. It's just hard to watch. Visibility at the Olympics, it's the biggest stage in the world. We don't ask athletes to celebrate victory somewhere else. It's just, it's hard to watch. It's hard to be a part of it. It's hard to see the division that one man has put with everything. And you hate to base on one guy, because one guy couldn't have changed 72 million people's opinions. The racism's always been there. This rhetoric's always been there. Trump just brought it out. The hatred that people have for other people has always been there. He's been allowed to do it, and no one stopped him. But I think we can all agree that if he did anything on those Epstein files, he should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. If Bill Clinton did it, if Bill Gates did it, If Barack Obama did it, if whoever did it, they should be prosecuted. And a celebrated guy who's involved, like I put it on Twitter this morning, you go back when you were a kid and your mom or your dad said, maybe I got a bad feeling about this guy. Maybe you should not hang out with him. If that feeling isn't there about Donnie Trump, then when he's been accused of some stuff, there's something wrong with you too. I think that's a valid point. Anyways, tomorrow we'll do another one. We'll talk sports. We'll break down the Olympic hockey tournament, where we see each team doing. Hope to watch the Canadian hockey team do well. It's the goaltending is a major. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go, but you have high hopes that they're going to pull this one off and bring another gold medal back home to Canada in a few short weeks. But that's it. 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. For Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more. Use promo code 1420SEAT over there at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. Subscribe to the YouTube channel today. Listen to some past shows. The show I did with the guys from Captain's Corner last week was a lot of fun. We're going to get together before the ball season starts and get more baseball talk. We'll pitch and catchers report in a few weeks. Super Bowl tomorrow, or the big game, like you're supposed to call it. But one of the deeper segments shows we've done a long time. If you disagree with me, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to tell you my opinion just as you are. As you are. I know I'm going to get nailed because I only have X amount of subscribers and who am I, blah, blah, blah. But whatever. And people are going to cancel me and some people might like me. It's just that's what the way podcasts are. You're allowed your opinion. I'm allowed mine. I could be wrong in some things, and you could be wrong in some things too. But we can agree to disagree on a lot of stuff. But that's what living in the United States and Canada is supposed to be all about: the right to say things, and the right to talk, and the right to, as long as you're telling the truth. You can't just make shit up, JD Vance, and just say for people to believe you. You can't twist truths. You can't twist things, and that's what's really become a major problem. And silencing the media and silencing people, that's not what our country's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about truth and faith and all that other stuff, and believing in each other and helping each other out. But anyways, that's the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. For Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more. And remember, everybody, that's it. We'll talk to you more about some hockey and some baseball. And remember, it doesn't matter where you are; it's who you're with. Enjoy your day, and we will talk to you all real soon. Thanks for tuning into the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. For Beer and Sports, talking a whole lot more. Brought to you by SeatGeek. Go to bellyupsports.com for the best of sports articles and podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever it is you get your podcast. Let's get in.